I was never the most organized person in the world, but I always prided myself on being a good mother. My 2 kids were my everything. On that fateful day, we found ourselves in a sprawling mall on the outskirts of our small town. Little Danny was 6 and Katie was 4. I loved them more than life itself, but as a single mother with 2 jobs, I was often pushed to the brink of exhaustion. That Saturday, we were in the mall for a quick shopping trip. The kids loved the toy store, and I had promised to buy them a treat. Juggling a shopping list and trying to keep an eye on both of them was always a challenge. In a brief moment of distraction, I lost sight of Danny. My heart pounded in my chest as I spun in circles, calling his name. The kaleidoscope of mall noises seemed to amplify as fear set in. Katie looked up at me, her big blue eyes wide with concern. "Where's Danny?" she asked. Her tiny voice seemed to echo my own internal panic. I retraced our steps, Katie clinging to my hand as we moved through the sea of people. The mall was buzzing with activity, the happy chatter and laughter a cruel contrast to the rising fear inside me. I could barely breathe, my heart hammering so hard I could feel its echo in my ears. I'd never felt terror like this. It was a bone-chilling horror that washed over me like a wave, leaving me feeling numb and helpless. We finally reached the toy store, but there was no sign of Danny. I approached a sales clerk, my voice quivering as I described my lost son. He promised to make an announcement over the mall's intercom, and I clung to Katie, praying to hear Danny's giggling voice from behind some shelf. But there was silence. Hours passed. Mall security had been alerted, and they were looking for Danny. But with each passing moment, my hope dwindled. I felt paralyzed with fear, paranoia gnawing at my sanity. The mall, once a place of innocent enjoyment, now felt like a labyrinthine nightmare, its echoing corridors haunting my every step. The sun had started to set. The bright mall lights flickered eerily against the shiny floor tiles, casting long, monstrous shadows. I couldn't bear the thought of leaving without Danny, but staying was like an endless torture. Each moment felt like a physical blow, my heart took almost a tangible force. Just as despair threatened to consume me, a security guard approached, a serious expression on his face. My heart sank further, bracing for the worst, but instead, he held up a walkie-talkie. "There's been a report," he said. "A boy matching your son's description was found in a maintenance area. He's okay." The relief was so intense, I nearly collapsed. With the guard leading us, we navigated the labyrinthine service corridors to the basement. The cold concrete and humming machinery were worlds away from the glamorous mall above, adding a surreal touch to my already frayed nerves. There he was, Danny, safe and sound. He was sitting in the lap of a man, a maintenance worker. They were sharing a candy bar. Danny looked up, his face lighting up as he saw me. "Mommy," he cried out, rushing to me. The maintenance worker got up, a gentle smile on his tired face. "Found him wandering around here. He said he was looking for his lost toy." "He's a brave little fella," he said, his eyes meeting mine. I hugged Danny so tightly, feeling his small body quiver with sobs. I realized I was crying too. It was a storm of emotions, but mostly it was relief. A paralyzing fear had released its grip, and all that remained was the aftermath of the horror and the uncontainable joy of holding my son again. As we left the cold basement, heading back into the bright lights of the mall, I felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude, the ordeal leaving a sobering imprint on my heart. The Christmas lights sparkled like tiny jewels against the stark winter sky as I, Sandra, single mother of 2, maneuvered my way through the bustling crowd at the shopping mall. My youngest Sammy was clutched firmly to my side, his mitten-clad hands secure in mine. David, my eldest, was somewhere in the throng, darting between people like a sparrow, disappearing, reappearing. He was always like that, free-spirited, independent. But that day, his spirit would plunge us into an abyss of paralyzing fear. The air was pregnant with holiday cheer, scented with gingerbread and peppermint, spiced with the excitement of the season. I remember the buzzing anxiety in my chest as I tried to keep an eye on David while keeping Sammy close. David had just darted around a corner when I felt Sammy tug at my sleeve. "Mommy, I need to go to the bathroom," he whined, hopping from foot to foot. My eyes flitted anxiously towards the corner David had disappeared around, then back to Sammy. "Okay, sweetie, let's find the bathroom," I relented, scanning the mall for signs. I reasoned that David would return to our last spot when he noticed I was missing. We found the restroom, and as Sammy did his business, I texted David to stay put. Emerging back into the crowd, I looked around for a mop of dark hair, a familiar coat, but David was nowhere in sight. A prickling sense of unease unfurled in my stomach, but I fought to keep my fear in check. I began to call out David's name, my voice wavering through the symphony of holiday noises. Each passing second layered my anxiety with a glaze of terror. After an hour of desperate searching, with Sammy clinging to me like a lifeline, I finally approached the mall security. They broadcast David's description over the PA system, his smiling face appearing on their screens. It was a horrifying tableau, a festive, bustling mall, a mother frantically searching a missing child. I felt an icy dread creeping up my spine, a sensation like chilling fingers brushing the back of my neck. The next hours were a blur of police, interrogations, and a desperation that sank its claws into my heart, pulling me into an abyss of dread. My tears felt like acid trails on my cheeks. The happy Christmas lights mocked my despair. Days turned into weeks. The holiday cheer deflated like a leaky balloon, leaving a grotesque parody of merriment in its wake. There were no leads, no clues, just a chilling void where my son used to be. The police worked tirelessly, but I could see the grim resignation in their eyes. It was the look of men and women who'd seen too many faces vanish, too many lives shattered. One evening, as I trudged through the eerily quiet mall, now a labyrinth of fear and desperation, I felt my phone buzz. A text from an unknown number with a video attachment. My heart thundered against my ribcage as I clicked on it. David, my boy, tied, terrified, but alive. Relief, terror, fury, and hope, all wrapped into one crushing wave, swelled in my chest. The grainy footage showed him in a nondescript room. No sign of his captor. The video ended with a chilling message in a distorted voice. "Give us what we want, and you get him back." But what did they want? Who were they? Questions swarmed in my mind like angry hornets. What happened next was a whirlwind. The police traced the number, but it was a burner phone. The video gave no clue to his location, but it gave me something vital: hope. My son was alive, and I would move heaven and earth to get him back. In a desperate attempt, we broadcasted a public plea on all major networks, offering a substantial reward for any information leading to David's safe return. Days rolled by in a torturous blur. Then, a breakthrough. An anonymous tip, a location. As I watched the SWAT team suit up, ready to storm the location, I felt a knot of fear, hope, and anticipation. In that frozen moment, time seemed to warp, stretching endlessly. Then, the world exploded into motion. Shouts, bangs, the sharp staccato of orders barked out. Then silence. A figure emerged from the doorway, a small, hunched figure. My heart hammered in my chest, my breath hitched, my world narrowed down to that one point. "Mom." The weak but unmistakable voice of David reached my ears. I rushed forward, wrapping him into a bear hug, my tears soaking his dirty hair. The elation of having my boy back, the bone-crushing relief, was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. As we later learned, the kidnapper was a deranged man, motivated by a twisted desire to feel powerful. He was apprehended without resistance, a mouse cornered by Cass. My David, my brave boy, survived. We survived. The memory of that holiday season will always be a grim reminder of the horror we endured, but it also stands as a testament to our resilience, the power of hope, and a mother's undying love. I've always been partial to the chaotic beauty of holiday shopping, that brilliant cacophony of tinsel and jingling bells, sugar plums and hot chocolate mixed with the undeniable rush of people bustling about, scrambling for last-minute gifts. It was always a reminder of my own childhood, when holidays were pure magic. Now, as a single mother of two precious souls, Maya, 8, and my little Tawny, just 3, I yearned to create that same magic for them. It was in this spirit that I took them to the city's biggest mall, adorned with twinkling fairy lights and a towering Christmas tree. A week before Christmas, the aroma of gingerbread and hot cocoa filled the air as we walked hand in hand. Tommy's little hands were wrapped in mine, his eyes wide with wonder. Maya, all grown up and responsible, navigated us through the crowd with a determined look on her face. Suddenly, I felt a shiver pass down my spine, the sort of primal chill that surfaces when something's not quite right. I turned around, and my heart nearly stopped. Tommy was not by my side. He was gone. My world froze. My pulse hammered in my ears. A fevered panic, a mother's worst nightmare, gripped me. Mia. I managed to whisper, pulling her close. Tommy's gone. Her eyes mirrored my fear. We raced around, shouting his name, weaving in and out of the endless stream of people. A security guard noticed our distress. He was a tall, gaunt man, eyes sharp under his cap, but he had a soothing voice that somehow brought a smidgen of calm to my terror. We described Tommy, his brown hair, his green dinosaur sweatshirt, the adorable lisp when he talked. He promised to help, his voice steady and certain. As we waited, I could feel paranoia creeping up on me. Each passing second was a nail in the coffin of my sanity. I kept replaying the last image of Tommy in my head, his tiny hand slipping out of mine. A man, masked by the crowd, passing by us. Had I imagined the man looking back? The stranger who, for a split second, locked eyes with me before disappearing into the crowd. It was then that it hit me, a tidal wave of icy fear. The man, the glance, the timing. It was all wrong. My heart pounded, blood curdling in my veins. What if he had my Tommy? Driven by dread and desperation, I raced through the mall, my mind in overdrive, my instincts on high alert. Time warped around me. The mall's holiday merriment took on a sinister edge. The shoppers seemed oblivious, their laughter discordant and terrifying in my ears. Every shadow morphed into the stranger. Every child's cry was Tommy's. Just when I thought I'd lose myself to despair, a sharp gasp from Maya made me whirl around. She was pointing at the entrance of a toy store, her eyes wide with fear, but also hope. There, peering out from behind the door, was Tommy. His tear-streaked face was etched with fear. He was holding someone's hand. The man. He spotted us at the same time. The man was taken aback, his eyes wide with surprise. He tried to pull Tommy further into the store, but my little boy shook off his grip and ran towards us. I grabbed Tommy and held him tight. I turned to face the stranger, but he had vanished. We returned to the security guard, who promptly called the police. A sense of heavy relief washed over me. Though tainted by the bitter taste of what could have happened, the mall's festive cheer felt hollow, the twinkling lights no longer magical. Weeks later, the police arrested the stranger. His face, when flashed on the evening news, was a chilling reminder of our close shave with disaster. He was a known kidnapper, linked to multiple disappearances over the past years. Life got back to its normal rhythm, but I could never forget the horror of that day. Holidays were no longer about just magic and joy. They were also about vigilance, a lesson learned in the most terrifying way. As for the city's largest mall, its twinkling fairy lights and towering Christmas tree lost their charm forever. The memory of our ordeal turned them into grim reminders of our brush with the unimaginable.